Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon to get the latest updates.
We are back to talking about Australia today, and you know what? Our context with Australia is neither cricket nor China. So what else is it that brings Australia so top of the mind for us that we have to talk about this and cut the clutter? So what's happening in Australia, let me also use a kind of a cricketing metaphor, although don't get confused. If you Google, you might find something that you may or may not want to see, because there is also an Australian male review and entertainment group by this name, Thunder Down Under. In India, particularly if you are a follower of cricket, which a large majority of us are, you would remember this was the tagline that Pepsi wrote for itself, I think in 2009 when there was a World Cup happening. So there is a Thunder Down Under going on in Australia of a different type, of a type that interests people like me, you, everybody. This is the war between Australian government, Scott Morrison government in Australia, and the big tech giants in the world, that is Google and Facebook essentially. So what has Australian government done? Australian government has said that look, there is an asymmetry between these tech platforms and news media organizations, newspapers, websites, TV channels, whatever, people who make news, because they produce content. And while we keep on saying content is king, content is not really a king. Content is now a pauper, because content actually is begging. Content maker is sitting in the market and saying, "Arey bhai, whoever wants, please publish me, and when you get advertising for it, give me a little chutta out of it." I'm oversimplifying it, but that is the way to understand it. So Australian government has said something that a lot of governments are saying and a lot of us are saying in the media, that there is an asymmetry in the power equation, in the economic equation, or in the market equation between Google, Facebook, or social media, tech, big platforms, and the news media. And news media gets shortchanged, and this is responsible in a big way for the destruction of the economics of news media organizations across the world. Because what's now happening is that advertising is shifting from print or from TV screen to digital. There, everything is not transparent. We don't know how algorithms on these channels work. We don't know what is it that these channels want to use. So if I use an expression that Shivam Vij, who is one of our young columnists, he used in his column just yesterday, and I am sharing that column with you. He said that these platforms have been leeching on, LEECHING, leech as in leech, joke, जिसको हिंदी में बोलते हैं, which suck your blood. They've been leeching on news media organizations, getting their content for free, and then throwing some crumbs at them, because we don't know how their algorithms work, and how is it that something is seen or something is read on these platforms and something is not. So we guess these algorithms, and when we do what is called as our search engine operations, we try and figure out, okay, put Modi in every headline because everybody is searching for Modi. I'm giving you again a very simple example, but we don't know, we are always guessing. So there is a statement from Robert Thompson, who is the head of News Corp globally, not the owner, he's like the CEO. He said new terms of trade are being introduced in Australia, but that debate now extends across the globe. There is not a single serious regulator anywhere in the world who is not examining the opacity. Opacity means what you can't see through. The opacity of algorithms, the integrity of personal data, the social value of professional journalism, because journalism is a public good. We are supposedly the fourth estate, and we should be paid by the market, because we are the free open market. We should be paid by the market for the work we do, because if the market doesn't pay, then we can't do this work. And then he goes on to say, so there is a dysfunctional ad market, and new terms of trade have to be now devised for news media, and this dysfunctional advertisement market. Now you see how this data works and how the equation between new media and old media works. In old media, I worked for a newspaper for many years, for a magazine, India Today, for many years. I was also the CEO of a newspaper for 13 years, besides being the entire group's editor-in-chief. So you published a newspaper, you knew what your circulation was, you knew what the quality of your readership was, which is what we did when we were at the Express. We said our circulation is not as high as the rest, but we give you the best quality readership. Based on that, we sold advertising. And the advertising that we got, we kept the money after paying a commission to the ad agency, which is 15% or thereabouts. So these were fair, transparent terms of trade. And then people bought the newspaper, they paid you a little bit of money, but they paid you for buying the newspaper. Again, important, look at a paper like the Hindu now, it's 10 rupees a copy, because people think it's good quality journalism, so people pay for it. Again, you might want to be paid more, but these are fair terms of business. You know how much you're being paid, you know how much you are spending, what's your profit, what's your loss. The equation in this case is, you don't know how much money is coming for what. Even when you watch this show on YouTube or Facebook, it will be there on both of those, you will see many ads running. Now we have no way of knowing how much each ad brought to the platform. We will get some share of it, and I can promise you it is very small, because even a show like Cut the Clutter, which is watched a great deal, even if 3 lakh people, even if 500,000 people watch it, we will not earn anything more than about 20,000 rupees for it, right? Which is not something that can pay for our journalism. Forget me and forget my time. This is my enterprise. I work without any wages, but it cannot pay for our journalism. It cannot even pay for our crews, our camera, our editing, nothing. So too little comes to the media, and that is where Government of Australia has moved in, because they are saying that look, in Australia the digital advertising market is growing, and most of this money is going to the digital giant tech platforms. For example, if $100 is being spent on digital advertising in Australia, 53 is going to Google, 28 is going to Facebook, and rest is going to other platforms, and news media organizations are given very little in return. So this really, it's not worthwhile for them, and also it is now threatening the existence of news media organizations. So Australia have come up with a law, a bill yet not yet passed, saying that Google and Facebook have to negotiate with every news media organization in terms of what they will pay them for using their content. And there is a trick after that. You would say, if we are the print, right? Google calls us to negotiate with them. Google owns YouTube and says, so Shekhar Gupta, what are you settling for? Our ability to negotiate or bargain is very little. We'll pretty much take what is on offer to us. Maybe some big organizations will be able to do it. So to get around that and to create a true level playing field, this Australian law also talk about arbitration, and they say the arbiter finally will be Australian Communication and Media Authority. So if a publisher and Facebook, Google, a platform are not able to arrive at a proper commercial deal, this will go to the arbitration authority, and arbitration authority will then take a call. Now digital advertising, you might say, oh, why don't you just get a digital advertising platforms audited and say this much money came, this much comes to you. But digital advertising is very complex, at the same time very simple. So let me tell you, let me try and explain this to you. You see this finger of mine. Many of you have been asking me what happened. So I will tell you what happened to me was very unexciting. It's the most humiliating thing that can happen to a human being, grown up or young. I slipped in the bathroom and fell, and I cracked a finger. So I cracked my ring finger. Because the doctor said I needed orthotics, so I searched some orthotics because I thought this was a bit clumsy, which I bought from my chemist shop. Because I searched for orthotics for about 10 minutes, since then I am now being bombarded not just by orthotic ads, no matter what I see, but also painkillers, also orthopedic surgeons, also orthopedic centers, also physiotherapy centers, because somebody up there, you know that old line, ऊपर वाला सब कुछ देख रहा है, that ऊपर वाला in this case is Google. तो गूगल ने देख लिया that I have a problem with some bone in my family and I am searching for orthotics. So if I have a problem with a bone in my family, I must need painkillers, I might need physiotherapy, I will need orthopedic doctors, orthopedic surgeons. So that is how this works. There it becomes very difficult to figure out which advertising came from where because of what. And you will see this happens, this works out in very funny ways. You land up, say, suppose I land up in Pune and I come back in the evening. By the evening, I'll be getting a lot of advertising when I open any digital media, including the print. I will be seeing ads for hotels in Pune or bars in Pune. So once again, upar wala sab kuch dekh raha hai. The big brother or whatever you call him or her is watching you. So that is how, now that a little bit of that money will come to Google from that hotel or whoever advertised it. I don't know how much is coming, and I don't know as a publisher how much is coming to us. So that is the power differential. That is where this playing field is not level between the publishers and the platforms. And today platforms have, each platform has a monopoly because there is no competition, there is no negotiation. Then at the end of the day, platform sends you some money and you say thank you very much, भगवान आपका भला करे, तेरे बच्चे जिए, तेरा खून पिए. I mean, sometimes I feel like that because you get so little from them. So that is what the Australians have tried to answer. And then Scott Morrison, the Australian Prime Minister, has spoken with Narendra Modi also, asked him for help, and this article that we carried from Shivam Vij also says that India should join in also. Just as Robert Thompson has said, all countries have to join in. Europe is already moving, France has moved in. In fact, many French publishers are now being forced to negotiate with Google. France has moved in, but once again the problem will come that these big platforms will then make deals. Say in India they can make a deal with Bennett Coleman. Everybody makes a deal with Bennett Coleman because they are the dadas, big dadas, and the rest of us can be left to fend for ourselves if there is no regulator. So now there is a global demand for regulating these platforms, particularly vis-a-vis their market equation or their business equation with news media, because news media is now dying. Advertising is shifting, as I told you. Digital advertising is very low value, of which we get a little bit of chutta. We get very little. So what do? Either we do mad things to just get numbers, because we know now only numbers get you more value. So how many views you get? You get 1 million, you get maybe 100 rupees. You get 2 million, you get maybe 500 rupees. You get 10 million, you will get 10,000 rupees. So to get that 10 million, that is when you see this madness going on digital media, also TV channels, because ultimately it all goes to digital platforms. Stuff like सांप की पेड़ के साथ शादी, snake marries a tree, तेंदुए का root canal, that a leopard goes through a root canal, और भारत का रफाल देख के शी जिनपिंग का पेट खराब, that Xi Jinping gets it. These are actual headlines that I've seen. Xi Jinping gets stomach upset looking at India's Rafale. So that is what then trivializes and destroys journalism. It's economics at the end of the day. That is what Australia has tried to address. So as you know, just to give you the Australian example, Google and Facebook have 80% of Australia's digital advertising market. This new law says that individual media organizations, they will have to, not, compulsion is not on the media organizations, compulsion is on Google and Facebook to negotiate with them. And as I told you, they will negotiate with Dada. So Google has already negotiated with Rupert Murdoch, who owns News Corp, big publishing business in Australia, big publishing business in America. He owns the Wall Street Journal besides many other things, and Fox News, and big publishing business across the world. So Big Daddy has made a deal, and that's why a lot of the people who want internet freedoms, etc., are upset with this. This means one more sort of Mili Bhagat is taking place in this business. The Australians say, however, that we are not going to relent. They have given some concessions now to Google and Facebook. They've given them some time. And the time is that you negotiate with more and let us see how it goes. And they are saying we are open for negotiations. Otherwise, what had happened was, because this was coming down like a guillotine, Google had already said that they will stop providing their search engine in Australia, which would be something, but the answer to that also came from many others who said, you can do it in Australia, but what if more countries join in? What if India joins in? What if, I mean, in India already there are pressures that the Chinese did not allow any of these networks to come and work there, then China has its own networks. So the answer to Twitter already is coming up as coup. I don't know whether it works or not, but the very fact that somebody has seen the need to provide an answer to a global giant. Twitter, by the way, gives us how much money for all the work we do and all the stuff they publish from us? Zero. One murgi kanda. Nothing. Nothing. That's the reason I get so furious sometimes with fellow journalists and I ask them that why do you work for Twitter? Because Twitter doesn't pay our salaries. So once again, that's an exploiter of the worst kind. So there is pressure building up among sovereign authorities because Facebook and Google have become richer, bigger, more powerful than sovereign nations. But ultimately, nobody can fight sovereignty. Nobody can fight national sovereignty. And ultimately, when you fight a sovereign state, the sovereign state wins, no matter how much money you have. And Australians have given us an indication of that. And you can see that both Facebook and Google are now willing to negotiate. So what's now happened is that both would like the Australians to make some deal with them and maybe live with the new law also, but as long as the law does not have that compulsory arbitration clause, that is in case they are not able to arrive at a deal with a smaller publisher, because they say that that will work in favor of the smaller publisher because the arbitrator could then fix the price. Now, on the other hand, the argument from the other side, which I have sympathy with, is that smaller publishers have very little leverage to negotiate with a big power. So it is for us. Now you might say that this is going almost in the area of price fixation, but this is how regulation also works in free market. So there is a quote from Johan Lindberg, who is a professor of media studies at Monash University, who says that this mandatory arbitration clause is key to the new law. Without this clause, the law is toothless, and I think he is quite right. Now, last year's digital advertising for Facebook and Google alone in Australia were 316 million American dollars. I am giving you all figures in US dollars, not Australian dollars, because then that gets confusing. Look at the situation in India, and Australia has big publishers. Australia has Australian Broadcasting Corporation, Sydney Morning Herald, the Australian, each one has millions of followers. Australians, although by the way on Facebook, are the fourth most active likers on Facebook. Now look at the situation in India. There is a FICCI Ernst & Young EY report for 2020 that shows India now has 30 crore users of digital platforms, 30 crore users of online news digital platforms. Otherwise a lot more, but news digital platforms, 30 crore people already. News digital platforms, portals, aggregators. Aggregators are InShots, Daily Hunt. By the way, they also pay us very little, if at all anything. Then 46% of all internet users in India, this EY FICCI report shows you, 46% of all internet users now consume news digitally. 77% of all smartphone owners also consume news digitally. So this is a lot, and at 282 million unique viewers, India is the second largest market for digital news media after China. China, as you know, has all platforms its own. In fact, it's one of those ironies that if Facebook exits Australia, the beneficiary might be WeChat, which is a Chinese enterprise, but that is something that will come up later. In 2019 alone, this EY FICCI study showed us digital advertising revenue in India had grown by 24% to 27,900 crores. In 2022, that is next year, this is expected to grow according to this report to 51,340 crores. Look, even if you got a small percentage of this as news publishers, we'll be quite okay. We'll be able to then, today I will not have to be thinking about should I send somebody to Tamil Nadu for 3 months, elections are coming up, to Kerala for 3 months, elections are coming up, should we have more people traveling in Assam and West Bengal, elections are coming up, can we afford it? If we just got a reasonable percentage of this, what is today probably about 35,000 crores or 38,000 crores, next year will be 51,000 crores, will be fine, but it doesn't come to us. So those are questions that are now being answered, and that is the reason that quite uncharacteristically people like us who are otherwise free marketeers are also leaning towards intervention by sovereign governments and regulators of sovereign governments, because Facebook, Google, etc. have now become like sovereign superpowers. Twitter, I don't know what to call it. Twitter is like a nuisance power, like a failed state with nuclear weapons. So you can't ignore it. It can do nothing for you, but it can do harm to you. In this situation, you need somebody to level this market, which is what the Australian government has tried to do, the French have tried to do in their own way, and EU is now trying to do, and that is the lesson that now other countries are learning, and that's why it is a very important event for all of us. Australians have given us the beginning there. And since we are talking digital news, let me also tell you about one of our digital products in the passing. You might have seen, if you follow our website and our publishing, we have a concept called 50-word edit. A 50-word edit, and you will see some as I speak on our screen, a 50-word edit makes an editorial point in exactly 50 words, not 49, not 51. And how did this come about? Because having been editor of a paper for a very long time, I know that most people do not read editorials. We write 400, 500 words of wisdom, घुमा फिरा के इधर से उधर उसका जलेबी बना के, then we put some stuff inside it, soak it in something. It's too much. So the editorial page, particularly the editorials, unsigned editorials, are the least read sections of a newspaper. Now, why can't we say it in much fewer words? Because ultimately an editorial is a view, it's an opinion. It's an opinion of the institution. It's not on the one hand, on the other hand, but maybe this is right, maybe this is wrong. If you don't have clarity, don't write an editorial. So this happened late night one day when I figured that a full tweet now with 280 characters roughly comes to about 50 words. And we thought that if you can make your point in a tweet in a maximum of 280 characters, you should be also able to make your editorial points in that much, that is 50 words. And that's how the 50-word edit came into being. It's an innovation, it's being read, it's being commented on, a lot of people disagree with it, which is good because that means we had a sharp editorial view, some agree, some disagree, but this is being read and this can't be ignored. On which note, let me ask you, you've read a lot of the newspapers today, tell me how many of you honestly, hand on your heart, how many of you honestly read any of the editorials in these newspapers, and if so, do you remember what that editorial said? And if the answer to these questions is what I expect it to be, that most of you have not read these, and even if you have read these, you don't know what the editorial was trying to say, then you know that is the justification for our 50-word edit. So please keep reading those.